No, it's not a witch hunt. It is an internal mechanism that's been in the ANC for quite a number of years. That was in the ANC when the current Secretary-General was elected as a member of the NEC many years ago, and also when it was again reaffirmed at Nasrec, and prior to that Mahikeng and Polokwane. The person involved who is taking the ANC to court was indeed a very prominent member of the NEC. So a witch hunt is something that is aimed at a particular group of people or a specific person, and this hasn't been. Over the years, a number of people have stood aside when they have been criminally charged in a court, and that is the issue that we're dealing with. This is not an issue about someone's behavior within the ANC. It is about something that has happened to this person without the influence of the ANC at all. It's 2570, Rule 2570 is the clause in the Constitution that protects the ANC from extraneous incidences, such as if a person is charged criminally in a court of law. And there are guidelines that set out how that would happen.
Sure. So would you say that this kind of behavior is lacking in discipline? I mean, what one expects of cadres is to understand what the movement expects of them and then to behave appropriately because they're aware of the prescripts and the laws. This type of behavior of taking the ANC to court seems to be counter to that. Would you go ahead and say that Ace Magashule is behaving like an indisciplined ANC member?
I think that is looking for a headline, and I'm not prepared to do so. I think what is happening is the ANC finds itself in a position for the first time in its history where the Secretary-General of the ANC is in fact questioning something in the constitution of the ANC. Our concern, of course, is that this should have been questioned when the matter was brought up in several meetings where Comrade Ace was present. And I think what is not correct right now is to discuss this while the matter is under review within the courts, and we're careful not to become part of a conversation that might go horribly wrong. We don't want to. We put our case to the court, and our case was that we acted in terms of the constitution of the ANC and several ANC resolutions that were adopted at conferences and by the highest decision-making body between conferences, which is the National Executive Committee. So, it could apply to any person in the ANC, and the motivation for taking the matter to court is, of course, that the question is whether or not when you join an organization of your own volition and you follow its rules and regulations, that you are letting go of your rights in the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa. And that's the issue that the court apparently is being asked to determine. But we are an independent body, and we do have our own rules and regulations, which, when you join the ANC, you do accept.
Exactly, and that's the point you were making earlier, and it's the point I'm trying to ask you to essentially comment on. I know you're saying we're looking for a headline, but let me say this. Yes. At the point that the Secretary-General was asked to obey the step-aside rule, at the absolute last hour, at the death, he then tried to suspend the president of the ANC. Now, surely that is not the kind of behavior one can say, we're not looking for the headline. It looks more like the Secretary-General is looking for the headline.
Yes, I understand. No, you do make an extremely good point, and it is also the point we made in our papers to the court, that that action in itself is incorrect. We don't accept it. We don't accept the motivation behind it or why it was done, because, we were all together in the NEC meeting when the step-aside guidelines were discussed and adopted. We went through a fairly in-depth procedure of continuing to debate and discuss with the SG including discussing with him whether or not he should consider a period of taking a leave of absence. He would not lose anything by that. But I think what we're up against is a view that he feels himself that he was badly done by, and that he needs to fight. And hopefully we can overcome this as soon as possible. Let us wait for the outcome of the court, if that is okay, because I think the court's outcome is important to us, and I am a bit loath to go into the detail because it is at the court. What we need to do is to be disciplined enough to wait for the outcome of the court. We've put our argument through our legal team in the court of law. It is now our argument is public, and our argument was that we do not accept the fact that the SG then decided to suspend the president. None of that. We had hoped that the SG would take the 30 days that he had asked for at when the discussion was held at the end of March to consider his options, and he did not step aside. And it is because of that the letter of suspension was almost unavoidable.
So, great. Let me follow on from that. Should the court rule in a particular way, let's say in his favour, does that mean that the ANC embraces him with open arms?
We've not discussed that as yet. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. I don't want to preempt a discussion in the NEC. Either way, we will have to give the NEC the opportunity to deliberate and find a solution that is in the best interest of the ANC.
Let me try and broaden the conversation to some imminent by-elections coming up. Do you think these matters related to the Secretary-General, but also broader matters, for example, what's happening with the third wave in the country, and I know that it's the government that is responsible for managing that, but it is an ANC government. Do you think all of these things are putting pressure on the brand of the ANC as the by-elections come up?
We've had by-elections twice before. We've had by-elections in December. We had by-elections a few weeks ago, and we did extremely well in both those by-elections. So our analysis is that we're unlikely to lose the wards that we already have. We're hoping in some areas in the Western Cape to win one extra ward that we I'm not going to say which one, working very hard to get. And hopefully we will retain our strength on the ground. We haven't actually seen a loss of our brand on the ground. People are debating. We have a very democratic organization. People talk and they discuss and they debate, and they are critical, and they are also, where they need to be, they give praise. There are concerns. Of course, the issues around service delivery is a major concern for many people in this country, including ourselves. And top of mind in all our discussions right now is the improvement of local government as a sector of government. It is our primary sector for delivery, and it has to be the best sector that we can offer ourselves. Hence, we've changed somewhat our mechanism for selection of candidates. We include communities much more, which means that communities actually vote on the 4 nominations that we take to them, and they can even vote for somebody else. If they do, the ANC is obliged to accept that new nomination, even if the ANC branch did not nominate that person.
Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting. Let me, for clarity, does it mean that the policy of deploying cadres, as has always existed, is that now shifting? Because you're saying that if people in a community believe a person is likely to be the best to do the job for them, they will be the ones that will get the nomination. Are you saying cadre deployment's shifting?
This word cadre deployment has become almost like a dirty word, and it should not be. It's an important aspect of any governing party anywhere in the world. where a party chooses to put people in spaces that, for instance, you would not put a person as an MP that wasn't an ANC member. We did that in the past. But let me say this to you. We insist that the person must be a member of the ANC because that is a core of who we are, and that person must have some semblance of understanding of our policies, not just some semblance, but quite a deep semblance of understanding. At the same time, have the respect of the community. Thus far, in all the BG branch general meetings that we've had and the community meetings that we've had, we've only experienced in 3 instances where the community has said, none of the 4 people are suitable to us. There is that ANC member there that we know very well, and we would like to nominate the person. The person is nominated and therefore is voted as the candidate. So it is a bit different, but it is not us choosing blindly people who are not ANC people, ANC members. They have to be a member of the ANC. Every party does that in the world, and every party in South Africa does that. You choose from amongst your membership.
Fair point, but when the person or the people that you have to choose from, and I'm not saying that necessarily this occurs all the time, is not the best person for the job in terms of the challenge that's posed in a particular municipality, how does one deal with that?
Well, if we're going back to the selection process, let me say that the community is entitled to ask people questions, very hard questions. And I've attended a couple of BGMs, and I can tell you that watching the 4 nominees' answers is quite an experience and an education. It does happen that there are people who are selected as community councillors that may not be able to fulfill the job, but you can never know that beforehand. I must be honest with you. There are people who are very well educated people who haven't been the best councillors, and there are people who are simply people who work extremely hard for the community and have a basic education, perhaps a matric even, who are the best councillors and work exceptionally hard. I think where we need to knuckle down is to make sure that we force and enforce wherever we are an ANC-led council, that people are employed in the civil service who are indeed qualified to do the jobs that they are employed to do. That primarily is partially where there have been some difficulties, where people have been employed who may have been a school teacher before, but the school teacher is not necessarily the best person to deal with infrastructure development in the council. You've got to find a person with some rudimentary or qualified experience in engineering, in development economics, in a number of other things. So we're also saying that we have a number of graduates, young graduates in this country who have studied, and they must be looked at as the pool of people who should be populating local government's professional sector, where the professionals are needed to do the job.
And of course, the professionals don't need to be members of the ANC. They just need to be good at their job.
Not at all. Oh, no, absolutely. They just need to be good at the job they do.
Of course.
And of course, look, you also don't appoint people who are anti the ANC. Let me be blunt with you. I think it's a misnomer to believe that somebody who is a fascist, racist person is going to be appointed to work in a municipality and is going to be able to build a cohesive community and work for the people in a manner that isn't racist.
All right.
So I think, yes, we must be clear that hopefully councils will also appoint good progressive people.
Final question, and we've got to be brief because I've been asked to wrap up. We have just experienced this third wave, and it's continuing. And, of course, today we heard about the Delta variant spreading rapidly. This is a very worrying situation for the country. We've also got a local government election that's literally around the corner, and campaigning happens in this window between now and the local government elections. Do you think the responsible thing to do right now might be to delay that election?
You know, our hearts are saying that we should try to delay the election, but the IEC did not agree and does not agree. So this election is going ahead. Hopefully, people will be able to cast their vote without getting ill and do so in a manner that is well organized enough to socially distant and even in the voting booths. In the last election in May, we did a practice run of what we could do if we went to, say, a lockdown level 4. And we found that communities did respond quite well. They did go to vote at different times. They did stand, if there were queues, they stood very far apart and so on. This is a bad one. This level 3 that we're in right now is extremely bad, and we're really urging everybody who's going out to vote to do so with extreme care.